What's the number one thing that duck hunters want? To consistently get birds right in front of your blind. Today I'm going to tell you how I do that and give you some practical things that you can try for yourself. How many decoys, what kinds of decoys, and how to arrange them. I'm Joel Strickland, and this is Surviving Duck Season. Thanks for watching Surviving Duck Season, where we feed your waterfowl obsession and help you to maximize your experience. And today we're doing that by talking about how to make ducks land where you want them to, by using decoys. There are multiple things that work together to be successful. Being a good spot, being hidden very well are the first and most important things. Last are decoys and calling. This video is part of a series on how to make ducks land where you want them to. Don't miss any of that content or anything else we do by subscribing to our channel. And you can find out more about us at survivingduckseason.com. Growing up in Arkansas, duck hunting was easy. I mimicked things that guys did, and honestly, we had so many ducks that most days it wasn't hard to get them. But as the years went on, I'd run into times that I just couldn't make it happen. I was just doing what I'd done before and didn't really consider trying anything different or learning about why things worked or didn't work. Treating duck hunting as a learning experience and figuring them out has taken my enjoyment to a whole other level. So I challenge you, no matter if you're a brand new duck hunting or a seasoned veteran, to be a student of the craft of waterfowling. It will definitely help you be a better hunter, and it'll even help you love it more, if that's even possible. There's a couple of different philosophies when it comes to duck hunting, and especially with decoys, and that's, the realistic approach versus manipulating the ducks. Are you a realist or a manipulator? What I mean is, do you always try to hunt and be realistic with your calling and your decoys? Or do you try to manipulate the ducks? Well, I think most people think of themselves as a realistic hunter. But what does that really mean? Making your decoy spread look like a group of live ducks on the water. If you're a realistic hunter, you never put decoys in configurations to get them to land right in front of your blind. Well, wait a minute, I do that. Well, then you're a manipulator. Truth is, most everybody is a manipulator, or they try to be from time to time. Ducks sometimes respond to things that aren't realistic at all, like comeback calls or strategically placed decoy spreads. So when it comes to decoys, when should you use one style over the other? Well, it really depends on where you hunt as to what method you use, and it could change from different times during the season based on the duck's behavior at the time or even the amount of ducks in your area. So let's start with realistic. When I say realistic, I'm talking about putting out a decoy spread the way that you actually saw ducks in an area. So what I'm talking about is like you hunt in an area where you're off the flyway, or maybe you don't have a lot of ducks, and so you're putting out maybe a dozen, 15, 20 decoys. And so in that situation, you're just putting 2 here and 3 there and that kind of thing, and you're putting everything very close to the blind. And so what you're doing is you're creating something that looks familiar to the ducks. You might be hunting a pond they come to every single morning, and it's the same 30 ducks that come in there all the time. So you put a few less than what were there, the last time you scouted it, and then hopefully they don't all show up at the same time. That's what we're talking about when I'm saying realism. For the way that I hunt in Arkansas. We have a lot of ducks most of the time, especially during the peak migration weeks. There's thousands and thousands of ducks, and so I'm going to be using more decoys, and I'm going to be manipulating the ducks. I do that with my duck call, and I do that with my blind, the way I set my blind up, as well as the way that I set my decoys up. And so it's manipulating the ducks. Ducks don't think like we do. We create landing areas, we create walls to keep them from going to certain places. When I talk about a wall, I'm talking about a wall of decoys, that keeps the ducks from going any further than a specific spot that you want them to go to. This is one of the most asked questions that I get. How should I arrange my decoys? Well, the bigger the spread, the more important it is to have some defined sort of shape, and the main thing is a landing zone that you want to create. A runway or some reason for a duck to want to land in a specific spot, within, 20 yards of your shotgun. Before we get into how to place them, let's decide how many you need and what species. It just really kind of depends on the way that you hunt, the way you have access. Can you take a lot of decoys in? Are you hunting on public areas where all you can do is carry some on your back? That kind of thing. In order to determine how many decoys you need to use, we need to answer a few questions. First of all, how many ducks are you seeing using the spot that you're going to hunt? And if it's in a high trafficking spot, how many ducks are in the area? Is there a refuge nearby? Are you seeing lots and lots of ducks flying over your spot all the time? Generally speaking, if you're hunting in an area where there's lots and lots of ducks, then you'll want to use more decoys. But you should only use as many decoys as you can keep moving. So what that means is, if it's calm and there's no ripples on the water and you put out 200 decoys, it's very difficult to keep those moving. If it's a windy day, that's a different story. So my rule of thumb is, if it's a very calm day, I'm going to use less decoys, because I can't keep a gigantic spread, moving all the time to make it look, like a realistic spread to the ducks. Now, how can you move them? A jerk cord, splashers, squirting decoys, swimming decoys, that sort of thing. This is really more about duck hunting theory and helping you to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, so then you can take and adapt it to where you're hunting. Now let's talk about species. I use decoy species that fits the area that I'm hunting. Mostly mallards and teal for me, with a few pintails and some speckled-bellied geese when I'm hunting in an open area. Almost always have black duck decoys, even though that they're very rare to the areas that I hunt. It's the black that shows up so well the ducks can see them from really high. On an average day, I'm hunting with about 4 dozen decoys. Now, when I'm hunting in an area where I have high concentrations of ducks using nearby, that's when I use a lot of decoys. 8 to 10 dozen decoys would be a lot of decoys for me. I know there's many guys that are using way more than that, using hundreds. Now that we know how many decoys we're going to use, we arrange them based on the wind. Remember, for the most part, ducks land coming into the wind.
Kill him.
Andy. I hunt with a crossing wind. Rarely do I hunt with the wind at my back. The only times that kind of break that rule is maybe if I'm hunting in flooded timber. If you do hunt with the wind at your back, the problem that you run into is ducks will line up and they'll be coming straight in looking at your blind. You're a lot better off being in an ambush scenario by taking crossing shots. That way they don't focus on you. If somebody moves in the blind, if something weird happens, they don't see you.
Do it.
So y'all have asked me to come up with some diagrams of successful decoy spreads, and I've come through for you. I'm going to go through and explain exactly how they work and how to adapt them for wind changes. But you're going to have to wait to the next video. When it drops, you'll be able to click on it right here. And until then, make sure you check out this video right here. Be sure to subscribe to this channel so you know when the newest videos are available. I'm Joel Strickland. God bless, and I'll see you on the next video.